Startup in regenerative medicine. It's Advancells. The founder Vipul Jain is with me. This is a fascinating subject for me because think about it, right? In the future, you don't need surgeries; just grow your organs and there you go. You just wake up like a battery and walk out, right? And that's what I think is happening. And I'll tell you why. Goldman Sachs many years ago wrote a report and said that in regenerative medicine, the deal sizes in 2010 were probably only 100 million, and there were only about 10 deals. Now there are 40-50 deals per year and an average of 800 million going into the business. And Vipul, building a business out of India is amazing, and you've scaled up to close to 3 million now, right?
Yeah, we should close our books at about that figure this year.
Interesting. Talk about your journey a bit. For our audience who are younger, I'd like them to know what stem cell therapy is all about and why it's the future.
Sure. So, as you might know, stem cell is the most basic cell of the body. Our entire body is made up of cells, and stem cell is that basic cell which actually starts the whole thing. So, if you look at the science says that if you have a major trauma or a disease, if there are sufficient quantity of cells, the right quality of cells, and they reach the right place, they should be able to regenerate that part of the body, because these are the cells that actually made that part of the body. So there is no reason why they cannot do it again.
Correct.
So that's the science. Now what we do is we make the right quality of cells, we give the right quantity of cells, and then we write the protocols on where to place these cells, where to transplant these cells, which is actually done by our partner hospitals and partner doctors.
So you make, which means you grow it,
right,
and then you deliver it to hospitals.
Right. So we are essentially a cell manufacturing facility where we make hundreds of different kind of cells, organ specific, general stem cells, scaffolds, and many other things come out of our research labs. And then these are used by doctors, hospitals, research institutes, academic institutes, pharma companies, for various purposes.
And where do you source these cells from? There are donors, you told me previously.
Right. So all of these come from humans. So we primarily do human stem cells. We also do species-specific cells, which comes from rats and rabbits and monkeys. But when we do human cells, they are coming from donors who donate these cells or donate various portions of tissue of their body for research purposes.
It is as safe as donating blood when you donate your stem cell?
Probably safer.
Safer?
Yeah,
right?
You just need a prick of any tissue.
Why the world of medicine itself is growing slowly, while stem cell offers a future where a person need not go through different varieties of treatment, and instead of that can walk out of an ailment very quickly. The world is caught between a chicken and egg situation, isn't it, at this point of time?
Well, the world is caught in economic situation.
Very well said.
The medicine is primarily dominated by the big pharma companies.
Yes, agreed.
They don't really want a lot of enhancements to take place because they have spent billions and billions of dollars
on R&D.
So they need to recover that first. If somebody goes up to them and say none of this is required and just use a jab of stem cells and everything would be ready, they don't want that to happen. So this is a very new science, new branch of science. More than the pharma companies, you have to understand that the doctors don't know much about it. Once you start reading about it at the basic medical studies, then only the doctors will grow into it, and there will be a generation who would believe in it. So it will take time, but the way it is expanding is exponential.
Let's talk about the two type of doctors that you met. The ones that fear, basically because they fear that they lose the patients, and the ones who are progressive and have used your services.
Yeah, so I would classify them as adapters and followers. So as in any other profession, doctors also have a kind of breed which are early adapters. They are mavericks, they like to experiment new things, they like to see what's happening, and they like to adapt it in their practices. So they are the ones who would go out, reach out to us, say that we want to do something, try it out on a few patients, and if they like it, then they want to make it a part of their practice. And then there are followers who would say, let everybody else do it, and if it's very successful, I'll join the crew, tribe later on. So I believe it's true with every business. Our job is to seek out the adapters, and followers will come.
By the way, Advancells offers therapies in orthopedics, diabetes, and neurology. Do you want to give our audience a sneak peek into what happens in each of these therapies?
Sure.
Right? And you can give your experiences with patients also,
Sure.
without naming the client, of course,
Of
please.
course. So neurological disorders are probably our number one treatment, and it's a bouquet of diseases such as ALS, spinal cord injuries, autism, cerebral palsies. Most of these are diseases which really do not have a treatment in contemporary medicine. So if somebody has suffered spinal cord injury, unfortunately, there is nothing that can be done apart from giving physiotherapy, which might not be effective. Now, stem cells provide a hope to such patients because it has the power to regenerate that part of the injured spine. And if that happens, then the patient can gain back a lot of control.
Correct.
Similarly, with things like ALS.
What would ALS be?
ALS is a neurodegenerative disorder, which basically means that your muscles start to degenerate over a period of time. One of the most famous cases of ALS was Professor Stephen Hawking, who actually outgrew a standard time or a typical time that an ALS patient lives. But typically speaking, once a patient has been diagnosed with ALS, he only survives 2 or 3 years before the muscles really give in. Now, if we can increase that lifespan from 3 years to 6 years, and if we can better the quality of life to much better than what they are having currently, then I feel that it's a treatment that's worth its weight in gold.
So muscle atrophy also would be part of
Muscular atrophies, muscular dystrophies, autisms. I mean, the number of instances where children are having autism is increasing multiple folds. In US, because there are very authentic figures, we see almost a double of autistic children year on year. Now, whether it's because of the environmental reasons or some people say it's because of vaccines, we don't know. But the truth is that it is happening. Now, can we do something to support the lifestyle of the autistic kid to make their lives as well as the lives of the parents a little better?
I agree. I mean, you worked, you told me previously, we spoke about this last year also, you worked with the autism kid. That was your first patient.
Yeah.
And you want to talk about that journey. It was also very important for your business to grow at the time. This was around 2014.
Yeah.
You want to talk about that, if you're okay with it?
Yeah, so the first case that we did actually was an autism kid. I think he was 5 years old at that time, middle class family. The parents really loved the child, wanted to do anything that they could have done at that time for the child. We had just started. We had not even, in fact, went all out in the market announcing that we are doing these things, and they approached us. We took up the case very cautiously. Fortunately, things fell in place, and the results were good, which is very fortunate, because if that would have been a bad case, probably we would have got a little dissuaded and maybe not proceeded.
And
further.
autism is treated by inducing these cells into what parts of the body?
Spinal cord.
Into the spinal cord.
Yes,
because the neurological.
Yes, because spine and brain are joined.
Yes.
So whenever you give something in the spinal cord, it travels to the brain. So that's how you deliver the cells. And then, of course, you require all the contemporary medicines such as behavioral therapy, occupational therapy for the child. And over a period of time, you see the child responding to all these.
And you were saying that was quite a success story, and they're still your client, right?
They are still clients. They have repeated the therapy thrice since then. They still remain very close to my heart, emotional reasons. We still talk from time to time, at least exchange Diwali greetings, if nothing else. But
what is the kind of improvement that happened? I mean, was the kid communicating better, moving better?
Yeah. So the father of the kid called me after 6 months, and my first reaction was, "Oh God, he's gonna blast me," because nothing would have happened. But he was almost in tears, and he said, "My kid hugged me for the first time."
Okay, interesting.
And he said, "That's all I wanted from life."
That's $1 million thing.
That's $1 million thing. I mean, we did a patient
priceless, right?
Right, yeah. We did a patient from US who had macular degeneration, was legally blind, And he called me after some time and he said, for the first time in my life, I have been able to read a book to my grandchildren. And
Nice.
now if nothing else happens, I think I have achieved whatever I wanted to achieve in life. When you hear these things, then that's what makes the entire effort worthwhile.
And the other part is, one is the first patient coming to you, maybe the parents came to you at a very desperate time, desperate situation. But for you, you still had to build a partner ecosystem of business. I also would like to know about that first doctor who allowed you to treat the autism kid. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, they are a self-provider. They don't do treatments directly. They have 55 partner hospitals. So you want to talk about that first doctor and how you won that particular doctor or hospital, and then talk about how you started winning the entire chain?
Sure. Actually, that was easier part.
Okay.
So the doctor, I'm not going to name her.
You don't.
But she had just come back from the US. She actually did her master's in stem cells. She was trained in stem cells. She had worked in one of the premier government hospitals in Delhi on a stem cell project. So it was not a subject that was alien to her.
Okay.
She knew about it and she wanted to do it. So she convinced her management and said, let's do one case, let's try it out. There is of course no harm, no risk. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And when it worked, then the hospital was able to do a lot of cases with us, and then from one doctor we got to another, and today we have about 55 partners.
Okay, the doctors make money on this. It's very expensive. You want to give us some insight into the economics of the whole thing? Your charge per 1,000 cells induced, or how?
Yeah,
how does
so
that
our
work?
charge is on the quantity of cells that we deliver, and then there is a small charge for the hospital, for the doctor, for their services. Usually speaking, a patient can expect to spend somewhere around 3 to 5 lakh rupees
On the total treatment?
for the total treatment. Yeah.
Per year, right?
This is one cycle. Not everyone requires multiple cycles,
Okay.
but if they do, then of course there are discounts that are built in at every stage.
Well, by the way, the good news is that the IRDA is now trying to induce or coax these insurance companies to have stem cell therapy covered, right?
Yes, so IRDA just recently issued a circular where they said that the insurance companies can offer these therapies as an additional coverage. It might mean that the insurance companies might increase their premiums, might mean that they might reject it, might mean they might accept it. So now it is up to us, people like us, to talk to every insurance company and try to get them on board. But at least the first major step has been taken.
Okay, and stem cell therapies are safe, and you are saying that the cost to a life is minimum, zero.
Yeah, they are absolutely safe. Well, I can't say that absolutely 100%. Nothing is 100%, but 99.99% safe. It's as safe as it can be. The only risk you practically take is the financial risk, that you will spend the money and nothing will happen. But apart from that, frankly speaking, in 4 years, I have never seen anything gone wrong.
Okay, and you're getting to 3 million this year in revenues. You've not raised money. How did you manage to build the business over the last 4 years and not raise any money? People in the stem cell industry would obviously want to raise more money, right?
Yeah, so whatever initial investments we put in, thankfully we were able to put in internally from internal sources. After that, thankfully we have been operationally profitable. So we have been able to generate some cash that everything goes back into the business as investments. So we have not really been in a need of raising any money till now. But what I feel in the next couple of years, maybe we'll go for our first round, just because now we are at a stage where getting from 3 to 30 is something that if we wait to do organically, it's going to take a lot of time.
It's going to take a lot of time, and also you've got labs across the world, one in Delhi.
Currently, we have only one lab,
Okay.
but we are in talks to establish at least 2 labs, one in the Middle East, one in Singapore.
And these will be for donors also.
Yeah, so they will do exactly the same thing we are doing in Delhi right now.
And the treatments abroad, I mean, the world is divided on this subject. You said, although the US is right up there in stem cell research, it's still divided, right?
Yeah.
Why is that so?
A lot of it has to do with the belief.
Okay.
There are enough number of people in the world who believe that it's unethical, it's
To
not
regenerate
moral
organs.
to regenerate the organs. that debate has been raging on and will continue to rage on forever. Having said that, the regulatory authorities across the world are looking at it with a renewed interest, and we are very hopeful that in the next few years we will see regulations being set up in multiple countries, which would allow these therapies to be done freely and.
I would always wonder such kind of treatment. Forgive me if I'm wrong. Wouldn't the army want to look at such treatment and what's happening in that side of things?
Absolutely. So we are working with the Indian Army. We have got a new protocol where we provide therapy for spinal cord injuries. Now, remember, the most number of injuries or casualties that take place in the army are bullet injuries.
You want some water?
Yeah, good. So we are working with the army with a new protocol where not just stem cells, we are able to actually implant a device on the spinal cord which stimulates the spinal cord and helps the patient in regaining mobility. Okay. So we are doing those presentations to the army, and hopefully we'll start a project.
Okay. What about the global other countries such as USA, UK? Are their armies looking into this? Because it almost sounds like a defense subject also in many ways. Because it really, I think it helps people who are lose their limbs and arms to bomb blasts.
Absolutely. So we are still a small company. We can only dedicate resources towards one channel at a time.
Correct.
Once we do something with Indian Army, then of course that can be replicated around the world.
So that's exactly what I was coming to. There's the research side of things, which is where there are billion-dollar companies, and then there's the therapy side of things. Right. Why is the research side so powerful versus the therapy side today?
Well, you have to see the purpose of the research side. The purpose of the research side is to provide these instruments, provide these cells for researchers to further work on them. So nobody's talking about
drugs.
To test drugs, to test organs, to create newer things. Science always is in quest of new things. To be working on the therapeutic side requires a different kind of subset of skills. So there you have to combine with the medical field, combine with doctors, and then do a lot of clinical trials, a lot of data generation. So there are companies who would do that, and there are companies who won't.
Yes. So okay, the research side is something that you want to get at, because animal testing is going to be banned soon, and at least there's a global movement to ban animal testing. And I've been privy to watch animal testing. Some of them might not. I've seen testing on pigs. Okay. It can be, for those of you who can stomach it, it's okay. But for those who can't, it's really it's unnecessary thing. But that's coming, right?
Yeah. So animal testing is now getting banned across the world. At least in cosmetic procedures, it's completely banned everywhere. For pharma testings also, now there's a revolution which says that it should be banned. Once that happens, the only way pharma companies can then test their drugs is by getting their hands on cells, on artificial organs, on these kind of things. So that is, according to me, going to be the next big thing. Okay. So we are now geared up to get into that market, and we are sort of preparing our catalog so that we can take that market.
Okay, and for that market, is it a different? You need more donors to come in. Is it like a blood donor system where people walk in, where people are tested, right? People are tested for various. What are people tested for before they become donors? Well,
the good thing is that you really don't need these donations from live people. You can actually get it during autopsies.
Right.
So while you are doing an autopsy, you are anyways, opening up the body and looking at the critical organs. We can easily get tissue samples at that time.
Okay.
The problem we are facing is that the government currently does not have a policy around this. So there is a policy of how to dispose that particular organ.
But there's no collection.
But there is no policy to that organ can be given to us. So we are working with the
government. Should there be a policy?
Absolutely.
But I always thought startups like you always beat policy, and then the government follows up and says, okay, this is our...
Yeah, that's what we are trying to do. So we are trying to collect donations from live people after they sign a consent. And we are working with the government on creating a policy. It's not that easy with the government. It takes time to create the policy. Okay. But we are pretty hopeful. And, this is first time it's happening in India. Nobody in India does this. So government never had the reason to create a policy.
Okay.
So now that they will have a reason, I'm pretty sure they'll work.
Okay, healthcare generally is very expensive. We spoke about it. If tomorrow stem cell therapies are deep inertia to a lot of things where you can regenerate organs, battlefield victims can actually grow their arms and limbs. If it will happen, I think Google outside is also working on a lot of these things. When this happens, what is the impact on society at that point of time? Do you see a big divide, like the rich and the poor, the haves and the have-nots? I have to ask you this because a lot of the authors, the author who wrote *Sapiens*, Mr. Noah Harari, he says it's going to be a divided world. What is your opinion on this as a startup? Because I think you want to make treatment affordable, available to the plenty, right?
So let's look at it from the history point of view. Personal computers were invented in the 70s, and nobody thought that everybody would have their hands on a personal computer in 30 years. Same is with medicine. So once these kind of things come into play, it will start with the section of the society that can really afford them. But then this is the section of the society who once put in their money subsidizes the other section of the society.
Okay, that has to happen.
That will happen. That there is no reason, or there is no way that we can survive without that.
Okay, and that's what you see will impact society in terms of availability of care for everybody.
Yes, availability of care for everybody, availability of the power to get better, the power to cure yourself at a reasonable price is what is going to drive this market.
It's going to happen. And the impact on India, according to you, what's going to happen in the field of medicine, especially in your industry, for the next 10 years?
Well, things will become more affording. Things will grow much more. So today, if we are claiming that 70% of our patients benefit from the therapy, we hope that in the next 5 years, we'll move this number from 70 to 90, just because of the newer generation of cells that are now coming up.
Okay.
And it will become more affordable, it will become more massly available. So we see a more paradigm shift happening in the 5 years.
What would the impact of technology on this, right? It's almost like a big data query. There are so many variables while treatment to go from 70 to 90 as an impact, right? 90% of the treatment being successful.
Absolutely. So I believe that this would be a great marriage between IT and medicine. These two things have always been separate since ever. But this would be a point where they will actually get married. Because whenever we do therapy, now we are starting to generate so much of data for which we require IT competence, things like big data, companies which are working into the big data scene. We would require all these things to actually generate useful data. Data always can be classified into useful and waste. And you don't know what you are dealing with till you actually reach the end of it. So just to generate the useful data, submit it to stakeholders like governments, like medical fraternity, like patients, that is the key to success.
Okay.
So yes.
So have you done any work? Do you want to go set up an analytics side of the business yourself, or would you leave it to the hospitals to do it, or a Philips or a GE to do it?
Yeah, I think we would rather have another startup who's divulged into it.
But are you okay to sharing a lot of this data to the outside world?
We have to share data. If we don't share data, then it's not going to go mass. So we are absolutely okay to share data, and hopefully there will be a point very soon where we will have terabytes of data that somebody can put in a computer and make sense out of it.
This is very interesting. At the moment, you've treated many patients.
We've done about 5,000.
5,000, and that would equal a lot of information, wouldn't it?
A lot of information.
A lot of information that is waiting to be
explored. Yeah.
Right. And how many of these startups come to you and say, "Let me do this for you. Let me crunch it for you and see the possibilities of bettering care"? Has that happened yet?
So we have reached out to a few,
Okay.
And they have shown great interest. And we, in fact, are running a pilot right now, where we have given data of about 150 patients to a company to crunch the numbers and come up with some data that we can actually use.
What kind of hypothesis are you looking at in these 150 cases? Obviously, you have to remember, guys will write back to me saying, "Are their names revealed?" Their names are not revealed, of course.
No.
So you want to tell me what kind of hypothesis?
Yeah. So primarily, what we are looking at is we want to establish pre-existing conditions. We want to establish that if 10 different patients were given cells for the same disease, Why did it work in 5 and did not work in 5? So we want to look at socio-economic clusters, we want to look at diet, we want to look at pre-existing conditions, what was common between those 5, what was different in the other 5, just to crunch that data so that we can come to a conclusion that if these are the inclusion criteria, it works, otherwise it doesn't.
It's very interesting you brought in diet as a very important subject, the way you grow up. Are also psychological experiences as a child, do they impact your body too, neurologically?
So I'm a firm believer of the fact that half of your disease is cured in your mind.
Okay.
If you are positive, if you think that I can actually win this battle, you do. If you surrender, you don't.
It's interesting you say this because, I was listening to a podcast recently and I think it's the Tim Ferriss show on Google. And he says the same thing as you. It's like our life is like a set of programs.
Yeah.
Like the Matrix, the movie, right? You load yourself with more positive programs of learning and it is very powerful.
Absolutely.
So on that note, you want to add anything else on final closing comments from Advancells to our audience?
I think there is hardly a time in everybody's life when you can actually see the future. And I'm just glad that we have been able to see that and we are working towards making the future a reality. And hopefully next time we meet, we'll have much more good news.
That's amazing. So he's ready to share data with you, startups. You can go contact him, and where can they contact you?
Advancells.com is our primary domain.
Okay.
Reach out to us on email, on
What's
social
your email?
media. We are info@advancells.com.
That gets answered?
That gets answered within 8 hours.
8 hours. Info@advancells.com. So he's also looking for investments. VC is watching. Contact him. But you've met all the big ones right now, haven't you?
We are in the process of meeting a few companies. Let's see how it goes.
So if you go from 3 million to 30 million, so the raise should be a large one, and I hope you.
Yeah, we are looking at about 3 to 5 million right now, and we don't want to really over dilute right now because it's a long game. Biotech is, you need to raise much more at a lot of times.
But you're not a molecule company, are you?
No.
So you don't need that kind of money. But what do you need the money for? R&D for?
Yeah, so things like artificial organs. Now that's
what you want to get into.
Yeah,
correct?
that's going to need a huge amount of capital.
And 3D printed.
3D printed organs. Yes.
And you've done some pilots on this already, haven't
So
you?
we have already printed a liver and a kidney, at least the outside paraphilia. Now we are working on the inner intricacies, and hopefully in the next 18 to 24 months we should have a small size model of a liver or a kidney.
Look forward to that, and you guys have been wonderful, and I'll see you tomorrow. Check out Vipul's company, Advancells. Go to their website. You can write to them at info@advancells.com. Vipul, you've been wonderful.
Thank you.
Look forward to hosting you again.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you guys,
Thank you,
and we'll see you soon.